Hello everybody. Hope you all are doing fine. This is your professor from your Java programming class. In this video, I want to get started with the concept of polymorphism. This is the last or maybe the extended part of the object-oriented concepts that we have been learning. And I would start off with some very basic examples, and then we would go over some of the programs that are given in the book. So let's talk about polymorphism. And polymorphism actually comes from a Greek word, and it is basically the ability of an object to take different forms. So the most common form that you would see is we will see the use of polymorphism when a parent class is referencing, a parent class reference is used to refer a child class object. Okay, so it is important to know that the only possible way to access an object is through a reference variable. And a reference variable can generally be of one type. So let's take a look at this example where I would create a polymorphism, or I'll show a behavior of the overridden methods, okay, in Java that would allow you to take advantage of this polymorphism. Remember, your polymorphism is many forms. So I will design some classes, and you would see some methods that are overridden. However, when we refer to them, or when we create the object, you will see how we have actually used the concept of polymorphism. So let's start off with this class, which is my public class employee, and I have some instance variables. These are all private variables, and then I have this constructor called employee where I pass in name, address, and number. So these are three parameters. So two of them are string and one of them is an integer. And then I have a little system out print line information which says employee information, and then whatever the name that I have passed is stored now in this private variable. The address is stored in the address and the number is stored in the number variable. And then I have this method called public void mail check. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm writing a statement saying mailing check to, and then this name is basically the object, the employee object, and this address is the employee address. All right. And then I have a string method which says return name, address, and number. And I also have a string called getName, which is returning my name. GetAddress is going to return my address. SetAddress is going to let me set my address, and getNumber is going to return my number. Now I also write another class called salary, which is now extending employee. So remember, my salary now is my child class, who is extending from employee. So employee is my parent class and salary is my child class. Over here I have a double salary, and I then create another constructor, public salary, and in this case I have the name, address, number, but then I would also pass in salary. So look at what I have right inside my constructor. I have super name, address, and number. So really that the name, address, and number is actually coming. I don't have to pass these things anymore. It will pretty much take the shape of these three things right here. Okay, so as soon as I pass that, it's going to associate that with the name, my address, and the number. So here I don't have to rewrite this thing anymore. I just say super name, address, and number, and then the last part, which is the salary, I'm using the set salary method. Okay, and the set salary method is going to assign the salary. Now I have this method called mail check. Okay, and in the mail check I say within my method mail check in the salary class, and then I say system out print line mail check to get name. Okay, and then you have your get salary and your set salary. And if you have a new salary, so this is how I'm going to assign that new salary. And then I have a compute pay. Okay, so compute pay is nothing, it's getting the name of the person, and then basically the salary that you get, you're dividing that by 52 to get your monthly pay. Okay, so now let's take a look at this program right here, which is testing my polymorphism. So I have this main method, and then I create two references. Okay, one is my salary S, but the other one is an employee, which is referencing to the employee class, even though I create two salary objects. All right, so in this two, you see that I've passed information. One is the first one, which is my John Gilliland, and the second one is this one. And then I have a system out print line call mail check using salary reference, and then call mail check using employee reference. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now run the program, and let's see what is it that I get. So the first time when I run the program, remember it starts with main, I have an S. Okay, so this is my new salary object, which is coming from here. And remember my salary object, I say string name, address, int number, but immediately I say super name, address, and number. So if I go back to my super, here is my super. Okay, this is the employee. Remember, this is extending, this salary class is extending from employee. So my super is actually going to my parent class, and in my parent class I have this information called employee information, and then I have the name, address, and number. Okay, so these three values, name, address, and this number, is now associated with this salary. Okay, so that's why I say employee information, I repeat it twice, and then because I remember I created two employee over here, and then I come to this call mail check using salary reference. This is where I get this call mail check using salary reference, and then system out print line, and then S mail check. Okay, now look at this. This S over here is referencing the salary. Okay, so first of all, we instantiate two salary objects. Okay, S new salary, employee new salary. One is using the salary reference S, and the other one is using the employee reference. Okay, so while we invoke the mail check, the compiler sees the mail check in the salary class at the compile time, and the Java virtual machine would invoke that mail check in the salary class at runtime. Okay, however, when I get to this part where I have my call mail check using the employee reference, e.mailCheck, now mail check on E is quite different because E is an employee reference. Okay, so if you go back to your employee, your mail check is referencing to this. Okay, so this is my reference. All right, so the compiler sees the mail check method in the employee class. Okay, so now when I compile, the compiler used the mail check in the employee to validate the statement. So at runtime, okay, however the mail check is run, the Java virtual machine would invoke the mail check in the salary, but it's still at compile time would actually compile the mail check from the employee class. So let's take a look at the output. So here we go, calling mail check. Excuse me. So when I come to the system out print line, I come in over here and say calling mail check, and then say s.mailCheck. So if I come over here, so it says within the method mail check in the salary class, mailing check to get name with salary. Again, when I say get name, this is reference to my salary. So whatever salary I had inputted over here, so that is my 3,600 that I'm getting for this person. Okay. However, when I do this employee E, okay, so when I do email check, let's see what happens. So even though I go to system out public void mail check. As soon as I go to system out println mailing check, it is actually referencing to this mail check over here, and immediately this calls for this name, and at this point it is E, okay, the employee reference. So E name and E address. So that's why when I pass this E with Adams, Cameron, Devon Street and this 2400, it automatically ties it to the right employee reference. Okay, so what we are showing here is, even though the mail checks are two methods, depending upon the reference that I use, I actually can use the salary reference to the mail check or the E reference to the mail check. So that's why I'm saying this is polymorphism, where the same mail check with two references, I'm using the same method. So it's basically overriding the method depending upon the reference that I use over here. Okay, now you see this employee information over here. Now I can, basically make it look a little different, where it really now shows you that the reason you get two of those things, because the salary S and employee E gets created, and of course if I go to the salary, then I do this public salary. So as soon as I pass this, it's going to call the super, and that is why I see the employee information once. And then as soon as I create this E right here, then again it's going to go to the employee information. So that's why I'm getting two of this employee information back to back. But if I move this thing out over here, so I would create one and then go to my mail check, S mail check, and then would do this, then it's going to break it out like this. So now I have employee information. So the first time my S is created, I immediately go back, call with mail check. Within mail check, this is my information. Then I do E. So then I again go to my employee information, which is this one right here, employee information, and then associates with the correct name and address. Now one thing I wanted to show you is, look over here, you have a compute pay over here. Okay, so I'm not using this at all. So why can't I just say something like system.out.println s.compute_pay. Okay, so let's see what happens. So now I say computing salary pay for John Gilliland. Okay, remember S is my salary, so this is my person, this is my salary reference, so that's why the first person is John Gilliland. Okay, now if I want to do the same thing over here, do you think I can do this? Actually, I cannot, because remember, your employee, when I'm trying to do compute pay, the compute pay is actually in this salary. Okay, it is not in the employee. So if you go back over here, see, you do not have a compute pay over here in the employee reference. However, it doesn't stop me if I want to come in and just do this one and actually go to my employee and add this method over here. Okay, then I should be okay into this one when I say e.compute_pay. Okay, so let's run this one, and it says I have this. Okay, so now it says I'm computing the salary pay for John Gilliland, and remember the first one was 3,600, so that's why I divide that by 52 is 69 something. However, the second person is Adams Cameron. Remember, this is my employee reference, right? So this is why I say email check S compute pay, E compute pay. So E compute pay, immediately it goes back to the employee reference, and that's why it takes it over here, computing salary pay for get name, and this get name is again going back to the employee reference, and that's why I have the right answer, Adams Cameron, and then this is my compute pay. So to show you an example how polymorphism works.